press conferences or media zones in, for example, Anfield, when Bayern was playing Liverpool in the Champions League, and I walk into the media area and there, I'm not lying, are two women and all men. And everyone's looking at you like, are you lost? Do you need to be somewhere? You know what I mean? And so, yeah. And, just being a woman talking about football, people will instantly question why you get to talk about football. But nobody is going to question my male counterpart sitting beside me, even though he might have never kicked a football in his life. And I've, represented my country, and I've played professionally for how many years? I don't even remember. So it's difficult, but also it's very fulfilling, because then when your experience and the job you do speaks for itself. So you have to kind of believe in yourself, and just not really care what other people say or what they think.
Welcome here on Sandy Bay Media for another episode. I'm joined by
Danya.
Welcome here on Sandy Bay Media for another episode. I'm joined by Danya Barsalona over at Victoria, Berlin. We're going to have a chat with her about her career as a professional footballer, as well as her career as a journalist as well. Welcome, Danya.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Fantastic to have you on again. Well, let's get straight into it. Kick us off.
So you want to know about my career? I guess I was born in Canada, so that's where I started playing football. My parents, obviously being Italian, it was the sport that we always watched, and we were always, I have two brothers as well, so we were always playing football. So we got into it, and I fell in love with it. And I mean, from there, I played for the Canadian national team, like through the program from the time I was like, I think 15 years old, all the way to the full team. And then I went to the US on a full scholarship, like Division I. I went to UAB, Alabama at Birmingham. Go Blazers. And that was a really great experience, and honestly one that I would recommend to every single women's football player that's around, unless you can get like a €5 million a year contract, then do that. So after university, I made the jump. I wasn't ready to stop playing. And I came to Europe to play. I went to Italy, where I played in Serie A. Then after Italy, I went to Spain, it would be like La Liga for women. And then I went to Norway in the top Syrian. And then I came to Germany, and I still am in Germany.
Fantastic. Well,
that's like the short version.
A very rapid fire version. Well, let's get to know a little bit about that. So you mentioned you were with the national team, and since you could essentially walk by the sounds of things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in Canada, before, they had like various centers across the country where they would choose players, from tournaments or from just scouting, and they would invite you 4 times a week to train. So it was called the National Training Center. For me, it was of Ontario. So they essentially picked the best players within like a certain area of the Ontario Center to come and train. So we had, training with the national coaches, like exhibition games against, other provincial teams, maybe other countries that would come sometimes against the boys teams. But the whole sense was that they were preparing the next wave of players for the women's team, because then they would take players from those various centers. So, Maritimes, West and Central Canada, and then they would do like national team camps.
Yep.
So yeah, and those, for example, I played against Germany in like a series once, and it was a good experience. Now they've totally revamped the system, which is even better, because now they have an Excel program, and it's just like way more complex, which is great, because development is so important. Because when I was playing, I mean, you would get players who would have to come from 4.5-5 hours away to training. And if the training center's in Toronto and kids are coming from Ottawa, which is 5 hours, but still in Ontario, it's a lot.
Yikes.
So now there's a lot more opportunity and a lot more chance to get the best talent that Canada has to offer. And I think you can see that now with the results. It's even on the men's side, our men are doing very well as well.
Doing very well.
We're probably going to make the World Cup, hopefully.
No, that's fantastic to hear that. And it's great to see those pathways has come along quite a while since that beginning of it. And it's still continuing to grow. But let's have a look at your experience with the national team and how you went and sort of your time and your memories. So are there any things that you can recall that really stood out for you?
I mean, just the fact that, as a player, I think the ultimate pride is to represent your country. I mean, I was born in Canada, but my parents are Italian. So I represented Canada, and it's just a feeling that this is, you're playing for your country. So when you pull on that jersey, it's something special. It's something that's a little bit different. I mean, it's great to play for your club too, but it's also like your identity as well. So, I mean, and it was always cool just to go and, you play against Germany, but then it's not like that you just play the game. We talk to the players, so you get to meet kids from around the world and see how their footballing experiences. And because, for example, when we played Germany, there was the Bundesliga in Germany, but there was no, and there still is no professional league in Canada. So just the fact that I think that was when I played for the national team and we played against Germany in the youth program. That was the first time I really thought, okay, there's professional football for women, because until then I didn't know that, because I grew up watching Serie A men, or, we never saw anything about women's professional players ever, never. So just the fact that I knew that in my head, then when I was young, I was like, okay, maybe there's going to be a chance for me to be a professional and I can start to, work towards that. And I think that's really what then did push me. Like when I did go to university, to think and to explore those options to go abroad, when not many people from North America were really, now you see a lot of players going. When I was in university, not that many people were going over to Europe to play professionally. So, I mean, it's great that it did kind of open my eyes to the possibilities that women's soccer had to offer, which now are really, compared to then, way bigger and still growing, because there's still a long way to go, of course.
No, that's excellent. And it's great to see that, as we mentioned earlier, those pathways opening up. And as you mentioned, it gave you those options to go, hey, maybe this is something, I can do for a living. This is something I can chase. Yeah.
I mean, when I got to Italy, that was my first professional experience. Yeah. I mean, you do have the let's say luxury of coming from abroad, so you do maybe get paid a little bit more than the people who are local, which is not right, of course, and that also created and does create problems in the team that you don't even really know about, because I mean, I was really naive when I came. Well, I'd never, I had no idea. It's not like I didn't have Mino Raiola beside me preparing me for what I was gonna see. So, but it was still cool. I mean, we were a team that was we finished in second place. So that's Champions League qualification. So, it was cool. And I mean, I still learned a different, approach to football. Let's say Italy, tactics are really important. Team structure, very important. So my game really shifted from, okay, the things I knew and the things I did well already, to a deeper understanding of my positioning, my, role in the team, the structure, everything, which was great. And then, my time in Italy ended a little bit, unfortunately, because I ended up breaking my ankle. But I mean, every player gets injured, hopefully not seriously, but it can happen. It's one of the things that can happen in professional sports, or any sport, for example. But then when I went to Spain, I learned other things that I didn't know when I played in Italy, and I didn't, so it's been a pathway of growth and just getting a deeper understanding of the game.
That's great to hear that. And as you mentioned, it's just that I just love that growth mindset. Even what you went through with your injury, that long, extensive injury, you sort of just went, no, I'm going to keep going as soon as I could get back, and you're straight into it. Coming off a 7-month injury, and now you're in Spain, and you're just
Well,
going, yep.
it was difficult. There were times where I didn't think I was going to be able to play again because it was that bad. And so there were times I doubted it. And then when I started playing in Spain again, my team was very supportive because obviously that those first couple of months, you're kind of holding yourself back a little bit. You're nervous to hurt yourself again.
Yep.
There's the mental aspect that not a lot of people see.
No.
I mean, but yeah, it was, you have to have that mentality that this is what you want. This is what I've worked so hard for. So almost like, nothing's going to stop me from achieving it. So
Yep. Just do or die mentality.
Yeah. I mean, just don't quit. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Just got to keep going. And then obviously, we spoke about your early career. So obviously Italy, Spain, and then you ended up in Norway. How did that come about?
I had an agent at the time that in football, women's football in Norway was always good. The league was a like a good structure. It had a good setup, and it was like fully professional as well. So you can go there and Italy and Spain were also professional, but considered like the consideration and the respect that it got from the federation was not the same as in Norway, where it was, and you see that even now, but things are changing slowly. Anyways, so they're like, hey, you should maybe look at going to Norway because the league is set up nicely. There's this team that, I think could be a good fit for you. So I was like, okay, let's try it out. And I went, and the season, the times are like a little bit different because of how cold it is. There's a lot of teams in the north and stuff. So it was very interesting from a few standpoints. I mean, the football is very physical, very direct. For me, I'm kind of like, I'm a little bit smaller, I'm fast, and I like to have the ball at my feet. You know what I mean? So this style was a little bit contradictory to how I was used to playing, coming from Spain, coming from Italy. And now I found myself in like Norway, and I was like, whoa, what's going on? But I ended up coming to Germany shortly after that and liking it. So
that's fantastic to hear that. And once again, it's great to see that you sort of just took in your strides and gone, well, yeah, I'm going to adjust to this league and see how I go.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to hide the fact that I had much more fun playing in Spain, for example. The type of football was much more suited to, my idea of football and what I enjoy. So, but it's always a good experience because like I said, you always have to take something from every step that you take.
That's exactly it. And then you ended up in Germany.
Yeah. I always wanted to come to Germany. I think like from the time I was little to play, because, Germany was also like the women's national team was very, very good for a long time. In Europe, they were like the gold standard. So when I came here, it was nice. Unfortunately, the team I ended up at had a lot of problems, which is kind of the negative side of women's football. And it still happens today, less and less, albeit, but I mean, financial problems, and they say they're going to pay you and they don't pay you, and they take advantage because you're a girl. And if you go to the DFB, for example, they don't care. And they tell you that we can't help you. And, so that was unfortunate. We had a very good team with a lot of like very, very good players. And the situation, the circumstance that we found ourselves in was ultimately what stopped us from, achieving the levels that we should have and could have achieved. So
it's unfortunate to hear those things you mentioned, but yeah, it does happen in football, but hopefully we're sort of stepping away from it and getting things right.
Yeah. And I mean, with the professionalization of women's football, it's a step in the right direction. I mean, still, in Germany and in a lot of other countries, once you drop off from the first league, the structures are not as good. It's still not professional. So it's not even about the money. It's more about the treatment that women's players get in terms of facilities, in terms of, a lot of people that are not in Bundesliga have to work and then go to training. And then on the weekends in their spare time, go to games. So, I mean, there's a long way to go and it's starting to get better, but we still have a long way to go before, if you take second division in Germany and second division, for men and for women,
it's two different stories.
It's like a different planet.
Yep.
So
we could go on that topic all night. It's a can of worms.
Definitely.
It's a can of worms that we'll open up on another day, but that's
definitely
we're here to talk about you tonight. And so obviously you were in Germany, things didn't go so well, but you decided to stick around. And obviously I think it sort of goes full circle when you were a young kid playing against Germany. Now you're like, oh, I'm here, let's see what I can do.
Yeah. So after that team, I went to Union Berlin. And actually it was a good setup, really nice team, like a good situation. And then that kind of, it's funny, you have to think that everything kind of happens for a reason, because when I was playing for Union Berlin, I then got the chance to let's say turn football into a job in another capacity, instead of just playing. So I became a football journalist for Deutsche Welle. And from there, I decided, okay, I had offers to leave Germany and to play in some other countries, like still professionally. And I was like, maybe it's the time to try to focus on, my post-football playing career. So I made the decision to stay in Germany and, focus on the sport or the football journalist side. And thankfully, Viktoria Berlin is the best team in Berlin for women's football. So I have now the best of both worlds. I can play football at, honestly, how we train is like a professional level, and still talk about football. And it's perfect.
Living the dream.
For me, if you don't like football, then it's probably someone else's nightmare. But for me, it's totally a dream, because I could talk about football, I could play football, everything football.
Football, exactly. Like I said, living the dream 24/7. That's
yeah. I have no complaints.
And just having a look at it, obviously you mentioned that, we just talked about you becoming a journalist in what's that been like for yourself, being as a female journalist in football?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, you have to have a certain level of security and confidence if you want to be, I think in any field, but especially sports, because football in Europe there's no way around it. It's a male dominated field. I mean, I remember walking into some of my first press conferences or media zones in, for example, Anfield, when Bayern was playing Liverpool in the Champions League. And I walk into the media area and there, I'm not lying, are two women and all men. And everyone's looking at you like, are you lost? Do you need to be somewhere? You know what I mean? Yep. And so, yes. And just being a woman talking about football, people will instantly question why you get to talk about football. But nobody is going to question my male counterpart sitting beside me, even though he might have never kicked a football in his life. And I've, represented my country and I've played professionally for how many years? I don't even remember. So it's difficult, but also it's very fulfilling, because then when your experience and the job you do speaks for itself. So you have to kind of believe in yourself, and just, not really care what other people say or what they think. So
that's spot on there. And I think it's amazing with journalists like yourself, especially female journalists like yourself, paving the way for more female athletes and more females to come through and go, hey, there is a pathway in sports media, because it is a tough field and it's even tougher being a female. So well done. And yeah.
Thanks. I think that's important because, you know, half of fan bases are female. You know what I mean? It's not only men that watch sports. There are women that are interested in sports. Women are 50% of the population. So like, obviously it's beneficial for young girls to see that just because you're a girl, you can still talk about men's football, like men's football, and also like women's football. It's not, you know, women have to like women's football, men have to like men's football. You can like both.
Exactly.
You can talk about both. You can be an expert in both. And you know, it's nice that people now see that there's opportunities and can have those to look up to.
And I completely agree. And like I said before, it's just amazing to see yourself and your colleagues providing being those role models and providing those pathways. Because one of the hardest things is, you know, when you don't have those role models, like makes it a little bit more harder. So I guess well done once again.
Thanks.
It was awesome talking to you, and it was fantastic having a look at your playing career, but also your professional career as a journalist. And just want to say thank you for coming on and having a chat with us over the last 2 weeks, all about Victoria Berlin and your career. It's been fantastic.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you. And yeah, and we look forward to seeing how the season with Victoria Berlin goes on, and hopefully you'll be there in the second division.
Hopefully.